that fiery side is from that humble beginnings, because everything that, I'm the youngest of two brothers, so everything that I had to get, I had to fight for, right? We didn't have the luxuries of, having, my kids could go open the fridge and there's like, voila. You know what I'm saying?
Voila.
Whatever you want, it's like constantly a grocery store. It never ended. Because I just have that mentality. Like, every time I enter the field, I feel unstoppable. You have to you have to think like that.
Yep.
And that's why I did what I did. That's why I took those shots, because I took shots that other players won't take. I grew up in the West Indian community. That community, we play with flair, and you like to, it's more about beats in a man, or dribbling a guy, than it is actually scoring and winning. You get more celebration if you salad someone, or so that was already in me from growing up. And
This is New Ground with Alan Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
Jalil, I cannot think of a better person to kick off our Legends series for season 2 of New Ground in 2025. He has 4 MLS Cups, an MLS MVP in 2011. He represented his club and his country of Canada at the highest levels, the country's all-time leading scorer, and one of the best to ever do it in our league. We welcome to New Ground, Jalil, none other than Dwayne De Rosario. DeRo, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
fantastic, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Jalil, DeRo, and I had a chance to be together in Miami right before the holidays, and it was just such a great opportunity, and we'll talk about it later in terms of giving back and pouring yourself and giving your knowledge, DeRo, to the next generation of players. But you've had a few minutes now since you were done playing, and what are the things that you miss the most when you think about your career? And we'll get into sort of all the receipts that come along with it. But when you reflect back and think back to your time playing, what comes to mind, and some of the things that you're happy that resonate with you when you think about your career?
Yeah, just the journey, man. Just the journey, the competitiveness, um, the locker room, um, just everything that encompasses, being a pro athlete, that I really embrace and I really appreciated. The highs and lows, the preparation, the anticipation for a new season ahead. Like I said, the competition aspect of it, and of course the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't replace the locker room vibes, because when you're in and around people day to day, you get to know them in a intimate way, but it just means so much. And when you talk about what means so much, it's legacies oftentimes.
Mm.
Like Alan just said, you are by far one of the best Canadian national team players ever, and that's well known. But what do you think your legacy means to the Canadian fans who have followed you throughout your playing career and post-playing career?
Well, you really got to ask them, but I like to think that they appreciate um, that passion that I brought to every national team game. I was one player that never turned down a call up, even though at times it was like, man, I mean, they weren't traveling as pretty as they traveling now. We were taking like 2 or 3 flights to get to like
Right.
places, and sometimes it was economy, and it was tough situations, man. Like it was really difficult, but I still was very proud. And the reason why um I took every opportunity that I got called in to represent my team is because I just always thought about the sacrifices my parents made leaving Guyana to come to Canada to create a better life for me. And I just looked at every opportunity as, I can't turn that down, because if I do that, it's pretty much, I'm disrespecting the sacrifices that my parents made to try to create a better life for me. And now I have that in front of me. I got to grab it with both hands. It may not come the way I always want it. It may not come wrapped up and packaged nicely, but I knew that every time that I got that call, it was an honor and it was a privilege to represent the country the new country my parents call home, and my birthplace.
DeRo, where does your mindset come from? Because I remember when you were talking to some of the young players in Miami down at the Corey Gibbs Invitational, it was clear you were able to sort of transport yourself into the mindset you had as a player. And I'm just curious, where does that come from and how were you able to keep that sharp throughout the years?
Well, I think being relevant and always making yourself accessible to the youth. Starting my foundation, working with inner city kids, humble beginnings as well. I grew up in humble beginnings. Just having strong supporting cast around me, having a father
Mm,
who passed away, but at the time has always kept me grounded. Um, and brothers and community has always kept me grounded. So I think and me accepting that as well, and not always getting above myself, and me always, feeling that there's always more to do, as well as having my academy, and working with youth daily. Not to mention, I was a father at a very young age, so learning to understand, having to raise a new being and a child. It humbles you, and it also makes you learn to be understanding.
And for me, I'm always very, very interested with mentality. So I'm hyped that Alan asked where it came from for you because I've always been curious. But
'cause he's a
you
dog, like, he's a real dog and a baller, like, I was always curious, like, where did that come from, you know?
Well, that fiery side is from that humble beginnings, because everything that, I'm the youngest of two brothers, so everything that I had to get, I had to fight for, right? We didn't have the luxuries of having, my kids could go open the fridge and there's like voila. you know
That's a lot.
what I mean? Whatever you want, it's like constantly a grocery store. It's never ending. Where we had to, we had to fight for everything. You know what I mean? I had to fight for everything, and I always want to outdo my brothers. And the community we grew in was a very blue collar community, tough upbringings, very diverse, very multicultural, um, immigrant community, and everybody came here everybody came to Toronto, and particularly Scarborough, metro housing community. It's tough. That's just, if you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you have to fight, and you have to gain your respect. And the respect had to be earned, right? Respect wasn't given in those communities. So I think that translated, that helped me a lot. And my dad was very no nonsense, old school parent that instilled a lot of discipline and respect in me. Don't talk back, speak when spoken to, kind of thing.
Mm.
Key fundamentals that helped me to grow up as a young man. That when I started to travel and I went on my football career, at 14, 15 years old, traveling the world by myself, that also um, taught me a lot about self and trusting self and understanding self, and also understanding that, you know, the world is an interesting place.
Mhm. The world is an interesting place is an understatement, but
Yeah,
football is the world's game. And
it
Dio, you and
is.
I, we've talked about it so many times in terms of mentality is what takes players to the next level. There's no way around it. But before you can even get to mentality, though, you have to be able to ball. You have to have technique. You have to be able to execute on the field, right? But where does your technique come from? Because your technique is special. Your ability
Mm.
to do things on the field. And I say your ability because you can still do it. But throughout your playing career, it was very evident that your technique, your precision, your power, all mixed in together was definitely special. Who were the people that cultivated your game as a footballer, whether it was coaches, whether it was family members or other
Yeah.
players?
Great question.
Yeah, fantastic question. I mean, it's a accumulation of things. I mean, I grew up in a West Indian community. That community, we play with flair, and you like to, it's more about beats in a man, or dribbling a guy, than it is actually scoring and winning. You get more celebration if you salad someone, or so that was already in me from growing up. And street soccer. You know, playing a lot of street soccer, my community against another kid's community. That's where you got the toughness, the resilientness. And my dad, I think, is the biggest, because he was my coach from a very young age, and he was a great admirer of the Brazilian style of football back then,
Okay.
the original Brazilian style of samba and playing with flair and expressing yourself and using football as a vehicle of freedom of
Mhm.
expression. And he would sit down and tell me about Pele and Socrates and all the
Mm.
all these players that um, as things start to modify VHS and social media start to come, we get to see what those players, how they danced on the ball and how they express themselves, and I really and I like that. I was a break dancer. I love dancing as
Mm.
well, so I tried to implement a lot of that stuff, and I saw that style in a lot of how those guys played, and it makes sense because of the samba, because of the capoeira,
Mhm.
and you can see a lot of that in their game, and it really resonated with me, and yeah, that with the West Indian, that flair and everything, and growing up in an English Scottish system where it was hard work, get stuck in, so I had to be able to adapt that side to my game as well.
Mm. Yep.
you know, Run in the snow, you work, kind of mentality. So kick and run, long ball and stuff, which wasn't my game. But I had to
Right.
learn to adapt if I wanted to evolve and if I wanted to represent Canada and if I wanted to make it to the next level of my game. I had to find a way to adapt, merge the two worlds together.
You played in MLS in a very transformative time, right? The league was growing like, tenfold every year, year after year, and everything was really right there. But how does that compare your experience to now where you're working with TFC recently with their forwards as a coach to help develop their game and their skills? You've had two unique perspectives. For you, when you think about the difference between when you were playing to the players you're now coaching, what are the things that stand out to you the most in terms of how that transformation has led to where we're at now in MLS year 30?
Well, I don't like to characterize because every player is different,
Mm.
right? The players today are the players today. They have a lot more access. They have a lot more opportunities than we had. They have a lot more support in terms of whole aspect of the game. Strength conditioning, health nutrition, which I was advocating for a very
Mm.
very long time. Um, but I think sometimes, if I could speak honestly, I just think sometimes the importance of that winning
Mhm.
mentality of hating to lose,
Speak on it.
is that winning mentality and doing whatever it takes to win. I find like it's not there. Like players still like, if they lose it, I don't feel like it hurts enough. When I
Mm.
lost, I could eat, don't talk to me, don't tell me about let's go out anywhere.
Right.
Don't even say nothing. Like,
Mhm.
just if you want to talk about the game, I'm always open. But if we're gonna have like small talk, I'm just like couldn't eat. I just hated losing. Because I love winning so much,
Mm.
right? And I just feel like that is missing a little bit.
So then the question begs is from your perspective, what's the best way that you can interject that into this generation of players? And it's not that I don't personally think I'm not one of those dudes that is like, "Well, back in my day, we had more winners." No, no,
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think that. It's just that they are different than us. So how do you think that you are uniquely positioned to instill that into more players? Mm.
Well, you have to use today's up to date references to,
Yep.
to to teach them, right? Like, a lot of them will lose and go on social media and thing, and you gotta relate to them. You gotta make them understand that, how does that look and how that perceived, and you have to make them really think, and find out ways that they have to think about themselves and their own actions, right? Because we can't make them understand that. They have to understand that within themselves. So we have to try to
Right.
push the buttons for each individual to understand that within their own selves, right? Like that chance there, you missed that chance, but did that really bother? Is that bothering you enough? And if it is, okay, then we can build from there. And if it's not, then I got to get to the fabric of why are you not bothered that you missed that chance? Even if you scored 2 goals, there's games that I scored 2 goals or a goal and I missed two, but I forgot about the goal I scored. It's the two chances I missed that's really bothering me, you know? And it's really making them understand those little nuances of the game, those little defined details, and make them understand, okay, what do I need to do better? What do I need to, work on, and how can I make that better? And you know, but the real challenge is making them understand that. I think that's the toughest thing, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody's gonna be. You're gonna work with one and say, okay, I got to back off and give them a little bit more time and room so they could come to me and ask me, dear, what do you think? I go, well, if you want to know my honest opinion, this is what I really think. I think you could do a lot more, and I think you could provide a lot more, but you're not, because you're not applying yourself. And if you applied yourself, so it's always self-reflecting on themselves.
Right.
So they always have to be in a position where it's like they got to think about it, reflect, and I think that's how you get to them. Because if the old school, if you head to head and you go through, and if you like it, you sink or swim, it doesn't really work today.
DeRo just dropping dimes all over the place like he used to on the field here on new ground. We've been lucky, DeRo, to have some amazing guests on, and the guys, the production team, Jalil, everyone's heard me talk about this ad nauseum, is this generation of players, your generation of players, who now have sons or daughters playing. And they're being very successful. We've talked to Robin Frazier, whose daughter Nikki was a freshman player of the year in the Big Ten. We talked to Tyrone Marshall, his kids at SC Cincinnati. We've talked to so many folks who have kids sort of in the ecosystem. You have sons as well. I would love to hear your thoughts on fatherhood and being a soccer dad, and how you try to make sure that none of those roles are blurred, even though they're all packaged into one person.
It's a challenge, because all my kids respond differently to different things, right? So I have to understand each of them individually. And just to touch on what you mentioned, I think that should definitely be documented. The amount of players that play in MLS and kids that are now thriving through sport is a story that should be told, that needs to be told, and I think it just looks great on the league. Because that's the evolution. That's why they built the league, right? Is to create opportunities, and we could pass on the knowledge. But passing on knowledge isn't always easy, right? And making my kids understand the fight and the struggle I went through. They can't understand that, nor do they need to understand that. But what they need to understand is that whether you like it or not, hard work is the order of the day. Right? You can't cheat this, right? You can't. We can help them, get them into certain rooms that other kids maybe can't, or it's hard to. But at the end of the day, they have to perform, and they have to produce. So making them understand that, and making them understand and accept the hard work, even though, like I said, they open the fridge and there's stuff in there, and realizing that you got to open that fridge and act like there's nothing there, right? And sometimes you gotta bring the hardship to them. Like there's times where I had to, buckle down and create hard times for my kids, so they could really appreciate and value what it is to have, right? And understand that that struggle and that toughness. Or else, if I sugarcoat everything, when it gets hard and the real world hits them out there, they wouldn't know how to adapt and adjust. And doing that is a balance, because like I said, all my kids respond to different things. But I've had my challenges being a father, even though the journey is an amazing one and a beautiful one that I really enjoy and appreciate. And now to come to a point in my life where, I have two young professionals playing the game that I love is a blessing.
Yep.
Yeah, DeRo,
Beautiful.
I've talked to you about what my father means to me. I've talked ad nauseum on the show. Alan knows very well. Anyone who knows anything about me knows that my father is everything to me. And I can see that same thing in your sons, in their eyes. Just the way they look at you, just the way when people are talking about you around them, they glow in a certain way.
Yeah. Love and respect in their eyes.
in that you've talked about some of the hardships that are private to your family and whatnot, but that is hard work, dedication, being there for your family. And the reason why this topic is so important to me is because oftentimes in the black and brown community, our community is depicted as communities that have absent fathers. But for
Okay.
me, that is something that I didn't experience. And in
I didn't
fact,
experience that much.
most of the family role models that I see, fathers are very present.
Mhm.
So that's a decision from you. Where does that decision come from at its core for you to make sure that your kids always have their father at the center of what they're doing?
From my experience with my father and my
Mm.
grandparents, my grandfather, always very present, always very available, but also very real. And that's, I think, the love and support I definitely love and appreciate, but the realness, that's something that to the core that I really valued the most from my father. He kept it 100 with me. He's the
Mhm.
one that I was like calling, like, yeah, did you see the game? See what game? I'm like, whoa. And right when he said that, I knew exactly what he was talking about, right?
Yep.
And he's just ready and just broke me back down. And I was like, yep,
Yep.
you're right. So that's what I be with my kids. I keep it 100 with them, and they know that all the time, right? And it's just that love. It's just that love that I have for them that I have to keep it 100 with them because if I don't, I think I'm failing. If I tell them, yeah, you did good, knowing you could do better, I'm gonna tell them, no, you could do better.
Mm.
I'm gonna say you did okay, but you can do better. I know you can do better than that. And like you said, having that love and that respect in their eyes. I think as a parent, that's all you could ever want from your kids, right? Is to have that respect and that love for you. But it's not easy.
No, it
that
isn't.
that respect and this it's a lot of time spent. It's a lot of hours, on the field and getting up and going on the field and going to the gym and working out with them and training and really supporting their passion and when I can easily just drop them off and
Mhm.
at programs and stuff like this and let them learn but it's hard to be a committed parent. It's very hard.
It is, and I appreciate this conversation because Jula and we don't have that experience. I think a large part of our friends, family, community had father figures that were around that were pouring themselves into us in some sort of way, shape, or form. We appreciate all that. And Dwayne, you've been awesome with your time. And before we let you go, I would love to hear those one or two moments you may have where you felt like you were at the top of your game.
Like we go through so much stages in life, that you feel that still along the way. I felt that so many times. um like you qualifying for U20 World Cup in Mexico. I just felt like unstoppable, and I won the golden boot that year. We beat Mexico to qualify for the World Cup, which hasn't been done in Canada. And I think about that moment. I think about certain things when I got my first call to the national team. I showed up and I balled out, and I felt so proud because I knew I had solidified
Mm.
myself on the national team. That goal I scored in 2001 with San Jose when Frank put me on and I came on, I scored that goal. I felt like, you know, I stamped my name in this league. And then, so there's I've been blessed to have a few, and we all have a lot of experience. You make that tackle the last play and you're like, yeah, and you can't wait for training because you're ready to do that again. It's just that is inspiration. But um yeah, it's hard to really point to one time that I felt like, because I just have that mentality. Like every time I enter the field, I feel unstoppable. You
Mhm.
have to you have to think like
Mm.
that.
Yep.
And that's why I did what I did. That's why I took those shots, because I took shots that other players won't take, or afraid to take because they're afraid to miss. Where I'm like, I'm not missing. This is
Mm.
going in. And if it hits the 12th row or 20th row, I can live with that, because at the end of the day, I know, hey, you know what? I really want to take that shot. You know. winning MVP was a great moment in my career. At that time I felt super empowered, but at that time, it's just, it's like, yeah, so much moments, man. I can't, it's hard to say, to point to one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I got one more for you before Alan closes us out. And I can relate to not being able to really point to one moment because, like you said at the beginning of the interview, the best thing about a professional career is the journey. But for me, you talked about, sitting down with your late father at times and talking about Pele, talking about Socrates, talking about some of these people who were just maybe figures on your guys' VCS at the time.
Mhm.
But one of the other amazing
VHS.
He's too young.
what did I say?
Hey,
I don't even know what I said.
hey, he's too young, DeRo. He don't
Yeah.
know about
Wait,
this.
hold on.
You don't know
VHS.
about no beta.
I
You don't
do
know
know
anything.
VHS. Don't
Yeah.
hey, I came into the game where we still had VHS and it was DVDs slaying.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
that young.
fair enough.
Hey,
That's right.
I'm
That's right. That's
36. Put
true.
some respect on my
Yeah, I know you're right.
wisdom. But nah, in all seriousness, when you play professionally and reach some of the heights that you've reached, you do literally get to see your dreams come reality in real life, right? So,
Mm.
what experience or experiences can you tell us where you thought, "Oh man, no, this was a dream when I was a kid, but now this is real." Like you playing with some certain athletes or in meetings or galas with them. What you got
Yeah.
for us?
Yeah. Probably Russia World Cup 2016, when I was invited as a FIFA Legends
Mhm.
game, and I went in the room, and Rivaldo, Cafu, like who was all in there, Ronaldo, the phenomenon. And it was just like, hey, you guys playing MLS? I was like, yeah. I'm like, they watch the league, like, they really watch football, just like how we watch them. They watch
Mhm.
football,
Mm.
and I always knew that. I always knew that. We always downplayed MLS because marketing wise, it's not as popular. But the world's game is the world's game. People that love the game, they watch football just like I do. I watch Italy, I watch Spain, I watch Portugal, I watch England, I watch South America. I watch football. If it's on TV, I watch it. Asian
Mhm.
League, I watch it all. Canadian
Mm.
League, I watch it. Because I just love to watch the game. No different than these guys. They love the game. They watch all sorts of football. Um, and like I said, we just don't give it credit because it's not on the front of our papers like it is in Europe and the rest of the world. It's not, on our TVs every time we turn it on. But it's appreciated and people love the game. So when I was there and they knew who I was and they knew about the league, and I'm looking at these guys and World Cup winners and like Ballon d'Or players and guys I looked up to, like the phenomenon. Like, come
Mm.
on, man. Like
Yeah,
that was my
real.
idol as a kid. I was at Barcelona when he just signed. And I knew what that felt like. I knew what that whole city was feeling. When
Mhm.
they just signed him, and then watch him perform and watch his career is like, yo, that guy, he was unstoppable. So to come first full circle, and you look back as a kid and the sacrifices you make of training and playing on the streets and growing up in inner city communities, and you're with your friends, and here you are with these guys. It's like, it's a blessing, man. It's a true, like I said, it's a journey that's filled if you could maintain it and stay focused and continue to work hard, like at the end of the day, it's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful experience.
Mm. That is a perfect way to drop the mic on this conversation and a legend to kick off our legend series in 2025. Dwayne, you've been outstanding. We could have done another hour easy just talking shop. We didn't even get into your celly being a top 3 celly in league history, in my opinion. I
Yeah,
know Ricky out
listen.
here doing all his things, and I appreciate that. But
Top
teach
3.
me to,
It's the
you
number
know,
1. It is the
number,
number 1
I
MLS
Yeah,
was,
celebration
yeah,
because
it's
of
it's one of the
I'm
you.
top sellers.
that's my own note. I'm not doing nobody else.
That's
That's
what I'm
mine.
saying. That's
Exactly.
what I'm
It's number
saying,
1.
That's right. So we didn't even get into that, but we appreciate you taking time to joining us here on New Ground, DeRo, and
Appreciate you
nothing
guys.
but love and respect to you and your family, man, and your journey and your wisdom is a benefit to all of us. So we appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you. And it was an honor, spending a week with you guys, man, in Florida. So appreciate it.